Like any workplace, a school must first and foremost be a safe and healthy environment. But there aren't many workplaces that feature such a diversity of purpose-built rooms, equipment, and range of activities. Occupational health and safety for teachers and other staff in schools, therefore, is a complex area. This program explores a range of aspects of occupational health and safety in schools, of which all staff, from the principal down, must be aware. And while teachers might spend the majority of their time in only 1 or 2 classrooms during the week, it is vital that all staff have a basic understanding of OH&S issues and procedures as they relate to all parts of the school. We'll look at manual handling, OH&S in classrooms and staff rooms, OH&S in specialist areas, hazardous substances, OH&S in the wider school environment, and OH&S procedures. Manual handling is an activity requiring the use of force exerted by a person to lift, lower, push, pull, carry, or otherwise move, hold or restrain any animate or inanimate object. In a school, inanimate objects might range from a box of paper or a pile of students' books to much larger and heavier items. It might involve transporting equipment between classrooms, lifting and rearranging furniture, or moving computers and computer monitors, or purchasing supplies for an activity or school trip. Regardless of how much manual handling is required as part of your job, it is important to always be conscious of how force is exerted to do it and which parts of the body are involved. The same is true for manual handling in any location outside of the workplace. The major risk in manual handling is injury to the back. Back injury figures highly in workplace health and safety issues throughout the country, and they affect all aspects of a person's life. People who experience one back injury are more than likely to experience another during their lifetime. An employer is required by law to identify hazards from manual handling, including the potential for occupational overuse injuries. Occupational overuse injuries are caused by repetitive actions or repetitive and awkward postures. They are most common in the fingers and wrists. Hazard management for manual handling has 3 key stages. Identification of risk factors associated with different tasks in the workplace likely to cause manual handling injury. Assessment of the risks on musculoskeletal disorders from the tasks which are likely to cause injury, and controlling the risk by eliminating or reducing the risk of musculoskeletal disorders. An assessment of an individual's capabilities to manage manual handling aspects of the job should be included in risk assessment. Every time you bend over, lift a heavy object, or sit leaning forward, you put stress on the components of your back and spine. Over time, they can start to wear out and become damaged. Many of the problems that cause back pain are the result of injury and degeneration of the invertebral disc. Degeneration is a process where wear and tear causes deterioration. The disc is subjected to different types of stress as we use our backs each day. Eventually, discs can collapse or herniate, vertebrae can shift, bone spurs can develop. There are some basic things you can do to help. Avoid lifting and bending whenever you can. If you can set something down on a table or other elevated surface instead of on the floor, do so, and you won't have to reach down to pick it up again. The best zone for lifting is between your shoulders and your waist. Put heavier objects on shelves at waist level, lighter objects on lower or higher shelves. Use trolleys to move objects instead of carrying them yourself. It is better for your back to push trolleys than to pull them. If you do have to lift something heavy, reduce the amount of pressure placed on the back when you do so. Bend the knees to keep the spine in a better alignment. Finally, never be afraid to admit that something is too heavy for you to lift or move. and never require students to lift or move heavy objects. Young bodies that are not fully developed should not be subject to injury risk from manual handling, and the legal implications of a student injury are profound. School staff are required to engage in manual handling in a range of different ways. The major risk with manual handling is back injury. Employers must identify, assess, and control manual handling risks in the workplace. Over time, back injury can cause vertebrae to deteriorate. Avoid lifting where possible. Place objects on tables or other surfaces above the floor. Use trolleys. And if you do have to lift, use correct lifting procedures. Many teaching and support staff spend most of their time at work in general classrooms and staff areas. Most OH&S incidents in these rooms occur through tripping on mats, boxes, and trailing wires. Not only are these a hazard through tripping, but if they are obstructing exit doors, they pose a real threat in an emergency when a room has to be evacuated. They are also a major concern for disabled students. Floors, therefore, should be kept as clear as possible. Electrical cords, rubbish bins, and storage boxes should be kept clear of areas where students or staff walk. This extends to ensuring that furniture in the room is placed in an ordered way. Chairs, tables, and desks should be placed so there are clear thoroughfares between them. Ergonomics in the classroom and staff room is important. Desks, tables, and chairs should be a suitable height for sitting and working comfortably, and chairs should offer good support to the lower back. These items of furniture are critical. They must provide the support, comfort, and safety required to maintain proper posture and therefore serve to reduce back pain and ongoing spinal problems. Storage units should be stable and, where necessary, fixed. Shelves must also be securely fixed and free from corrosion. It is preferable to store materials within reach from a standing position, but if they have to be stored up high, approved ladders to Australian standard specification should be available for retrieving or placing them. There are other OH&S considerations in general purpose rooms in a school. The temperature inside rooms should not be allowed to become extreme, and ample ventilation should be available. Lighting is another consideration. Adequate natural and/or artificial light must be present to prevent damage to the eyes when working. This means there must be sufficient light to see and engage in tasks such as reading and writing, but not excessive light, which causes glare. Consideration should be given to window coverings if glare is a problem in rooms. Care must be taken when hanging display items in a classroom. If hanging anything above head height, an approved ladder should be used, definitely not a chair. Ladders should have labelling that indicates how to use them safely and for which type of purpose that particular ladder is designed. When displaying material, it is also important to consider the comfort of those who are viewing it. Necks can become strained if display material is hung too low or too high. A final note about office and other staff areas. Common piece of equipment found in schools is the photocopier. Photocopiers need to be serviced regularly, checked for ozone gas leakages and harmful concentrations of airborne contaminants. All copying equipment should be located in well-ventilated areas. Most OH&S incidents in classrooms and staff rooms involve tripping over objects on the floor. It is important to keep floors clear. Furniture in these rooms must be designed for safety and comfort. Approved ladders should be used for high shelves or cupboards. Temperatures should not become extreme. Lighting must be adequate but not excessive. Computer users should break or stretch at least every 30 minutes. Photocopiers should be regularly serviced and in well-ventilated areas. In most schools, there are specialist teaching rooms and other areas such as sheds and workshops where specific OHS considerations arise. Specialist teaching areas include science laboratories, art rooms and technology areas, kitchens, gymnasiums and other sports areas. Prior to any activity, staff and students need to have a safety induction on the correct and safe way to behave and operate in any specialist rooms. In the case of sheds, workshops, science laboratories, some technology areas and kitchens, there may also be hazardous substances present. These are dealt with separately in the next part of this program. In workshops and sheds, there should be safety goggles and other protective equipment provided, which should all be stored in an accessible place. It is also vital to ensure that such equipment is in good condition. Machines should be adequately guarded and equipped with automatic safety cutout switches. They should also be maintained, regularly inspected, and tagged by a qualified electrician. Tools must be safely stored when not in use. In science laboratories, equipment and chemicals should be stored safely and securely. Glassware must be located where it cannot be accidentally knocked, and all storage areas should be clearly labelled. Safety goggles and other protective equipment, such as lab coats and gloves, must be provided and kept where they are easily accessible. Fume hoods must be kept clear and in good working order. They should be serviced regularly in conjunction with Australian standards and regulations. As with all teaching and staff areas, the layout should allow safe access, exit and circulation within the room. Safety rules should be prominently displayed and fire equipment such as blankets and extinguishers securely stored in an accessible place. Equipment must be cleared away, cleaned if necessary and stored after each use. Finally, the contents of all first aid kits should be regularly checked and incident recording procedures up to date. In art rooms, particular attention should be paid to kilns if they are present, checking that they have adequate means of dust extraction. They should also be equipped with a safety cutout mechanism and a lock. In other technology areas, attention also needs to be paid to equipment. Tools should have clearly marked and safe storage areas allocated, and any machinery must be equipped with appropriate guards and cut-off switches. In the case of woodworking machinery, suitable dust extraction facilities must be present. Any machinery should be regularly maintained, inspected and tagged by a qualified electrician. Clear instructions and safety rules relating to its use must be displayed. Kitchens are another area where protective clothing and equipment is used, and again, this must be accessible and in good order. Washing facilities for washing and drying hands prior to handling food must be provided, and reminders to pay attention to hygienic practices, as well as other relevant safety procedures, should be displayed within the room. A first aid kit's contents should be regularly inspected and kept up to date. A wide range of specialist equipment is also found in school gymnasiums. Brackets securing ropes, wall bars, and other such equipment must be inspected regularly to check they are secure. Any wooden equipment must be free of splinters, and all sports and other related equipment must have provision for safe and secure storage when not in use. The provision of suitably stocked and well-maintained first aid equipment is vital in all sports areas. As this area is particularly high risk with injuries, physical education staff should ideally have some first aid training. Gymnasiums often double as school halls, and any stage equipment like props and lighting must be safely stored. With lighting, it is also vital that it is in safe working order, checked at suitable intervals, and if necessary, maintained by a qualified person. For all areas that contain specialised equipment, set routines should be established at appropriate times in the year for regularly and systematically checking it. Specialist teaching and other work areas include workshops, sheds, laboratories, art and technology areas, kitchens and gymnasiums. All equipment must be in safe working order, fitted with appropriate guards and tagged by a qualified electrician. Protective clothing must be easily accessible. Safety rules and instructions for equipment use should be clearly displayed. All equipment should be cleared away and stored after use, and a regular routine established for systematic equipment checks. Hazardous substances are found in various locations in schools, including science laboratories, art and technology areas, kitchens, workshops and sheds. The nature of hazardous substances in these areas varies, from chemicals used in curriculum-based work in science, art and technology areas, to cleaning products, solvents and fuel for a variety of different machines. While the nature of different substances varies, the general approach to correctly identifying, storing and handling them is the same. Firstly, all hazardous substances used and stored at school should be identified and recorded in a register. This is possible by checking the information on its container label and Material Safety Data Sheet, or MSDS. Suppliers must supply MSDSs with sales of hazardous substances and are required by law to review them every 5 years or at such time as new information becomes available. An MSDS provides information about a substance's properties, ingredients, hazards, precautions for use, first aid advice, and contacts for further information. It should be included for each substance as part of the school register. In the rooms where hazardous substances are stored, their MSDSs should be displayed in an appropriate place for all staff to access if needed. A careful review should then be made that determines the potential risk to staff and others in the school of each substance. Control measures for all high priority risks should then be established, and these should be documented. An important part of this is to ensure that there is safe storage of all hazardous substances. In establishing safe storage facilities, depending on the nature of the individual substances, consideration must be given to construction of the storage area, ventilation, security of the storage, and who can access it. And careful labelling of all storage areas, as well as the labelling of the substances themselves. If necessary, staff should be trained in the proper use of each hazardous substance based on the preferred control method. Staff must be aware of each hazardous substance's potential risks and the means by which the risks are to be controlled or eliminated. Any spillage or accident occurring that involves hazardous substances should be documented, including information about where and when the incident occurred, what first aid procedures and subsequent medical attention was administered, and what steps were taken to clean up spills and dispose of waste. Regular reviews of risk assessments and control mechanisms should be made, at least every 5 years, possibly more frequently as new information about substances and better ways to control them becomes available. State governments and various private companies provide a good deal of support information and training for the storage and handling of hazardous substances, which can be accessed online. Hazardous substances are found in various areas in schools. All such substances within a school should be identified and have an accompanying MSDS, which suppliers must provide. Any potential risks relating to hazardous substances must be assessed. Safe, secure storage of hazardous substances is critical, and storage areas and substances themselves must be correctly labelled. Any spillages or accidents with them must be recorded. Regular reviews of hazardous substances and related procedures must be carried out. The safety of areas outside of school buildings and thoroughfares, such as paths, ramps, stairs, and verandas, must also be carefully monitored for potential risks. Areas designated as thoroughfares should be large enough to cope with the volume of people traffic, and surfaces should be kept clean and monitored to ensure that there is minimal risk of tripping and slipping. This includes checking whether surfaces outside become slippery or otherwise dangerous when it rains. Constructions, such as stairs and ramps, must be in safe condition, and any potential risk immediately reported and acted on. If necessary repairs cannot be made immediately, then the affected area should be safely cordoned off to prevent anyone from using it until it is repaired to a safe standard. As with any workplace, in a school, it is also important to engage in ongoing general safety housekeeping. This means constantly monitoring areas to ensure that there are no incidental risks. If risks are present, it requires immediate action to minimise or eliminate them. This might include guarding the sharp edges of furniture to prevent personal injury, and keeping desk pull-out surfaces closed when not in use. Being diligent about keeping floors free of items that might cause tripping, keeping waste bins out of the way and not overfilling them, preventing slipping accidents by cleaning up spills immediately, reporting all defects such as loose tiles, broken steps, fences and doors immediately to the maintenance department. If no action is taken, a report should be made to the Health and Safety Committee or staff representative, ensuring that potentially dangerous behaviour does not occur. Keeping sharp objects such as blades, tacks and pins in closed containers. Using correct tools for the job, for example, a staple remover to remove staples. Ensuring that jewellery, long hair and clothing must be kept clear of the moving parts of all office machines. Occupational health and safety in a school, as in any other workplace, should be entrenched in the workplace culture, and all staff should be encouraged to make it top priority. Areas outside school buildings, such as paths, stairs, ramps and verandas, must be in safe order. Ongoing maintenance includes cleaning and monitoring them to ensure minimal or no injury risk. If unsafe, they should be immediately repaired or cordoned off until repairs are done. General safety housekeeping is also critical and should occur on a continuous basis to ensure safety risks are minimised. In all states of Australia, the law requires employers to consult with staff on managing occupational health and safety matters. Typically, different staff members will be elected and appointed as occupational health and safety representatives. Depending on the size and nature of the school, there may also be an occupational health and safety committee. The consultation process will vary from school to school, but in broad terms, it should start with the identification of the number of different groups of staff in the school that require representation by the OH&S representative. Such groups are often defined as designated work groups, or DWGs. Each DWG elects their OH&S representative. A decision should also be made about whether an OH&S committee will be established and who will sit on it. OH&S committees typically comprise the elected OH&S representatives, representatives of the school administration, including a bursar, a member of the school maintenance team, and any other appropriate personnel. The role of a health and safety representative includes bringing staff and management together to promote consultation on OH&S in a school. An OH&S representative may also investigate OH&S concerns that are brought to their attention. They also make recommendations to the OH&S committee and/or management on specific OH&S issues on behalf of their designated work group. and are involved in reviewing measures taken to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of their group. Procedures for the resolution of occupational health and safety matters within a school should be clearly set out. They will vary from school to school, but should always involve putting matters in writing, be duly noted, and a recommendation made for action on each one. Once a decision on the action to be taken is made by the relevant group or individual within a school, it should be followed through, and notification of any changes should be made to all staff that it affects. Whether schools decide to have a health and safety committee depends on the size of the school and the hazards found in the school. Small schools with few staff may choose to only have a health and safety representative who reports to the entire staff at regular intervals. Larger schools, however, should consider setting up a health and safety committee as it shares the workload between staff, ensures that all relevant areas are represented, and provides for a greater range of input on OH&S matters. The appointment of OH&S personnel and the procedures employed to resolve OH&S matters within a school should be documented as part of the school's OH&S policy. State laws require employers to consult with employees on managing OH&S in the workplace. Depending on the size of a school, OH&S representatives are appointed or elected to represent designated work groups. There may also be an OH&S committee. Through OH&S representatives, health and safety issues in a school can be brought to the attention of the committee and/or management. All issues should be documented, together with recommendations for action and the action taken. Occupational health and safety is vital to the health, safety, and welfare of all employees in any workplace. In schools, there are typically a number of different areas that require consideration, including the condition of general class and staff rooms, specialist teaching areas such as science, arts and technology, and kitchens, workshops and sheds, and the wider school environment. The law also requires that formalised OH&S procedures and appointed personnel are in place to deal with the ongoing concerns. In any workplace, OH&S for all within it must be the top priority, and the purpose of legal requirements to formalise and document all related matters in schools is to minimise all risks to staff, students, and anyone else in contact with the workplace.